Very good evening. We have had some brief overview of the Jaina tradition. So you understand it is a philosophy as well as a religious tradition. But most importantly, we can say that Jaina is more known for the ethical teachings. So it is about ethics much more than metaphysics and epistemology. However, even in the case of Plato, we can say that what Plato has done, Plato has developed a metaphysics, Plato has developed an epistemology so that the ethical teachings of Socrates can get some support, some background. So similarly, to support this ethics, they have given us a very well-developed metaphysics and a well-developed epistemology. And in a way, ethics is integrating both metaphysics and epistemology. So a blend of our theoretical knowledge of reality can help us create a way of life. And this way of life will result into a life of self-actualization, or it is like self-realization. So either a life of self-actualization or self-realization, or you say a way of life which suggests a life of self-help. Life is all about becoming self-reliant, where you should not need anyone else. Self-help is like trying to be self-sufficient. You should not expect any help from anyone other than you. Okay. You also know that Jaina does not accept God, personal God. The world is not created. World is out there. It is eternal. And when we discuss metaphysics, it will become more clear. So there are many things which are real. There are many numbers, plural, and there are two important categories of reality. Something which is a spiritual substance and something which is like material substance. So overall, when we see metaphysics, it can be characterized as a kind of realistic, relativistic pluralism. So the way they have explained reality, reality is constituted of real entity, it is relative and it is plural. In a way, if you recall, in the case of some traditions in West also, it is the philosophy of being, like Parmenides. Philosophy of being would say that real is something which is not changing. In order to be real, it should be immutable. It is like saying the real is something which has a permanence. Okay, and then there's another aspect which would be of becoming. That is change, flux is the only reality. So whatever is real is going through constant change or flux, like Heraclitus. So in some way, nothing is static. It is like dynamic. It is in a state of change. Now again, some thinkers would say the real is something like spiritual, Atmavad. Okay. Other may say the real is something which is like material. Similarly, there can be a view which may suggest there's something like a soul and there is something like a body. Okay. Now, for some people, it is only soul. In the case of Charvak, you have seen it is only body. In some cases, we as a human is a blend of both soul and body. So these are some of the views. Now, what is their view? The real is not only being, is not only becoming. It can be such that it can be called being, permanent. It can be called becoming, going through change, flux as well. Real is something which is eternal, beyond creation, beyond destruction. At the same time, real is also production, is also integration, is also disintegration. Real is something like spiritual, it is also material. You are both spiritual, you are also physical. Jitne views hain, they are trying to suggest this reality is such that all these views are relative and none of the view is the absolute view. In their tradition, they explain it with the help of history. Imagine that there is some animal like this, and this animal is being explained by people who are visually especially abled. So how would they explain it? They would explain it by touching different parts and would say it is different. Someone who is touching the trunk would say it is a snake. One who is touching the tail may say what? It is a broom. Snake idhar. It is a broom, jharu. One who may touch the feet may say it is a pillar. It is a fan. It is a wall. And likewise. If you are looking at the real in its all form, you know none of them are absolutely right, but none of them are absolutely wrong. What is so special? Relative to the standpoint where one is located, their view is from that respective standpoint. In some way, if one is claiming it is a snake, when one is false, when one is wrong, incorrect, when one claims it is only a snake, one is not saying how I am located relative to my standpoint, it is like a snake. One is claiming it is the snake. If someone is touching the tail, may say it is actually like a broom, jharu. Their suggestion is one should qualify one's point. The way I'm located from my standpoint, somehow, relatively, it is like a broom, it is like a jharu. So overall, when one may listen counter view, one may get disturbed. One consider it as a contradictory, opposite voice. One may see it as a threat. But how should one accommodate it? One should be mindful. All of these are from a respective standpoint. Real may have innumerable character. जो रियल है उसके अनेक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हो सकते हैं. So it has innumerable character, it may have innumerable aspects, features, and I as a finite being may know some aspects of the innumerable characters or aspects. Hence, innumerable अनेक हैं. तो reality is like अनंत धर्म कम वस्तु. जो रियल है उसके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स कितने हैं? अनंत हैं. तो इनका मेटाफिजिक्स क्या सजेस्ट करता है? अनेकांतवाद. अनेकांतवाद का मतलब है रियल हैज इन्यूमरेबल कैरेक्टर. व्हाटएवर इज आउट देयर इट हैज अनंत धर्म क्वालिटी गुण. एंड व्हेन आई नो माय नॉलेज इज ऑलवेज फ्रॉम ए पर्टिकुलर स्टैंड पॉइंट. एज ए फाइनाइट बीइंग माय नॉलेज इज रिलेटिव to the standpoint. Okay, so what I know is from this standpoint. I shall refrain from equating my partial knowledge, limited knowledge, relative knowledge with the absolute. So if you come across different voices, do not be perturbed, don't get agitated, do not think you have been contradicted. All voices can coexist without limiting each other, without eliminating each other, because all these voices are from their respective standpoint. In this background, you should relate with their anikantavad as a metaphysics. When it will be epistemology, they would help us understand how quest for truth goes through some stages. We will understand how we are as human being, but the way we are now, we are limited. And as a limited being, as a limited human, we have some limitations of space and time. So when you should know, you should be mindful that your knowledge is always relative. So hence, epistemology in some ways like the theory of relativity. And later we'll understand why one of their position can be called Syadvad. So generally speaking, epistemology का theory है, theory of knowledge, Syadvad, relativity of knowledge. Anikantavad, metaphysical theory. The real has innumerable aspect. In other words, what kind of metaphysics do they propound? Realistic, relativistic, and pluralistic. The world is real. In a way, world is not created, but the objects of the world come into production. They can also go out of existence or disintegration and integration. तो अब ये सारी बातें clear हो जाएंगी once we understand their metaphysics. Then we'll know ethics, and once you understand metaphysics and ethics, and we come to then epistemology, you'll be able to relate with their position with regard to knowledge in a better way. तो पहले एकदम basic कहानी से शब्द समझते हैं इनका metaphysical theory अनिकांतवाद. तो what all are there now? So whatever is before you now has empirical reality, but that does not mean how things appear. That is the intrinsic nature of reality. So overall, they believe that if you look around, there are two important categories. यानी आपको ये मालूम है, we can call it what? Substance. Whatever is real can be called substance. It can also be known as what? Tattva. Hence Tattva Mimamsa. And sometimes for substance, we can also use the word Dravya. Okay. So what is a substance according to Jaina? They say that anything that you regard as real will have many qualities. Some qualities you already know constitute its essence, essential quality. And whatever is like essence can also be called gun, technically. Some qualities you already know can be what? They are accidental. It is not eternal, it is not intrinsic, permanent, it is accidental. If something is accidental, it is also like mode. और जो mode है, उसको आप बोल सकते हैं पर्याय. तो द्रव्य, substance is what? Even Aristotle believes that substance has what quality? It is a unity of matter and form. Okay, substance is that which can only be the subject to which predicates can be attributed. तो आप उसको कुछ qualities attribute करते हैं. तो द्रव्य वो है जिसमें गुण है और उसमें पर्याय है. तो गुण पर्याय जिस चीज में हो वो है द्रव्य. So what is substance? Substance for them as in for the Jaina, has essential qualities as well as accidental. That is, it has some qualities as the essential and some of them are like mode. तो कुछ हद तक जहां जहां आपके लिए possible हो, and I said you can prepare a kind of chart. तो गुण, पर्याय, वद, द्रव्यम. द्रव्य क्या है? पूरा याद ना भी हो तो इतना आप लिख सकते हैं. Substance, Dravya is something which has essence and accidental qualities, or it has mode. It has gun, it has paryaya, and that is like Dravya. In some ways, some qualities are with substance forever, and many other qualities are accidental. They are modifications. They may be there, and other times they may not be there. अभी उसी पे आ रहा है. अभी जैसे हम आप and different table, chair, everything. Okay, we'll now come to what all are Dravya. अभी आपने बस जानना है उसमें essence है, उसमें accidental qualities. यानी some qualities are inseparable. You cannot take them away. And many other things may come and it may disappear. ठीक, तो अब ये पर्याय, पर्याय जनरली थोड़े बहुत उसमें चलता है. ओके, पर्याय, लेकिन र में ऐसे आता है. ओके, सो ऑल ऑफ दीज आर लाइक. हाँ, तो इतना अगर आप करेंगे तो तब फिर आपका आंसर कंप्लीट नहीं होगा. इसलिए मैंने कहा मिनिमम. ओके, अभी पेपर नहीं लिख रहे आप, मिनिमम. ओके, ज्यादा करेंगे तो फिर डायक्रिटिकल मार्क्स पे ही सारा टाइम चला जाएगा आपका. ओके, तो नाउ विल डॉट. हाँ, तो नाउ व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट नाउ द्रव्य, वी विल लर्न फ्रॉम Jaina that द्रव्य हैज टू कैटेगरीज. ओके, वन इज जीव, एंड अगेन वेरी सिंपल. अगर संस्कृत में उसके आगे अ जोड़ दें तो हो जाएगा अजीब. वो है अजीब, इंसान वाला नहीं, अजीब. ओके, इनिशियली देयर राइटिंग वाज इन अर्ध मगधी, बट ग्रेजुअली दे स्टार्टेड टू राइट इन संस्कृत आल्सो. तो जीव इज लाइक soul, okay, conscious, and ajiva is unconscious substance. In a way, a spiritual substance, and this is non-spiritual. Okay, we'll not refrain from calling it all of them matter, and you will soon realize why. तो जितने substance हैं, द्रव्य हैं, वो दो categories में बट गए, जीव, अजीव. Okay, conscious, unconscious, spiritual, non-spiritual substances. Within ajiva, we can have 5, something like time. Time के लिए we can use the word काल. You already know आकाश for space, आकाश. Then we'll talk about dharma. We'll talk about adharma. And 5th will be Pudgal. And this side we have Jeev. So in a way, 5 plus 1, 6. Okay. So there is a broad division, Jeev, Ajeev. And in this, you have these. Kal is like time, Akash, space. A little while ago I had said, Anant Dharma Kam Vastu. The word Dharma has many connotation. Dharma is also like in Purusharth, you remember yesterday in Vatsyayan, Dharma comes. That Dharma is again like right path, right conduct. It is like what is ethically, morally just, merit. Okay. Lekin yahan pe Dharma right now is very different. You can write it in English, medium of motion, medium of rest, and Pudgal can be written as matter. But we'll come to 5 gradually. First know Jiva, soul. Okay. So now what is a Jeev? You already know Dravya will have what? Gun, and it will have Paryaya. Some qualities are essential, other qualities are accidental. So Jeev has Chetana. Chetana as in consciousness, as the essential quality. So Chetana, Lakshan. Lakshan is what? लक्षण इज अगेन लाइक एसेंशियल क्वालिटी. एक साथ बोले तो चेतना लक्षणो जीवः. ओके, लेकिन आप इस तरह से समझ सकते हैं दैट कॉन्शियसनेस, चेतना इज द एसेंशियल क्वालिटी ऑफ द सोल और जीव. तो दोनों का मिक्स हो जाएगा. जीव में चेतना जो है उसका एसेंशियल क्वालिटी है. ओके, नाउ यू आल्सो नो दैट देयर विल बी समथिंग लाइक मोड. सो शॉर्टली विल कम टू मोड. इन सम वे दिस जीव whose essence is like consciousness has intrinsic powers, has intrinsic perfections, and these perfections are of 4 kinds, and all these perfections are infinite, absolute. तो जिस चीज का कोई अंत ना हो उसको क्या बोलते हैं? अनंत. अनंत एज इन इनफाइनाइट, अनलिमिटेड, एब्सोल्यूट डिग्री. 4 तरह के इस तरह के इनफाइनाइट अनंत उसके परफेक्शंस हैं. तो हेंस यू कैन कॉल इट व्हाट? अनंत चतुष्टय. तो वी कैन अगेन राइट इट इन रोमन अनंत चतुष्टय. यहाँ का ए अवॉइड कर सकते हैं. चतुष्टय हाफ है तो अवॉइड दिस. अनंत चतुष्टय. ओके, अनंत चतुष्टय इज लाइक द 4 काइंड्स ऑफ परफेक्शंस ऑफ जीवा. जैसे अनंत है, वी कैन रिटेन दैट. तो पहला है, और इसी की तरह से आप याद रख सकते हैं, अनंत दर्शन. अनंत दर्शन इज लाइक इनफाइनाइट फेथ और इनफाइनाइट इनसाइट. ओके, अनंत ज्ञान. अनंत ज्ञान इज लाइक इनफाइनाइट नॉलेज. अनंत सुख, इनफाइनाइट ब्लिस. अनंत वीर्य, इनफाइनाइट पावर. These 4 perfections are the intrinsic perfections of जीव. तो हर जीव में अनंत चतुष्टय है. It is like अनंत दर्शन, अनंत ज्ञान, अनंत सुख and अनंत वीर्य. All of these are intrinsic perfections of every जीव. Okay, so in some way this is how जीव is in itself. Okay, now you remember that this world is what? World itself is uncreated. World is eternal. Okay, but the entities that are in the world, including us, we come, we go. तो अगर कोई चीज सब्सटेंस है तो does that come into existence? No. जीव is uncreated. These 5 ajeev are also uncreated. But in this world, whatever you see is like integration. And there can also be disintegration. Okay? तो integration and disintegration एक तरह से चीजों का बनना है, उनका गलना है. और वो है पुद्गल. पुद्गल का मतलब होता है something which is liable to come into origin, integrate, and it can also disintegrate. So this is like पुद्गल. Okay? तो अब the being we are now is essentially intrinsically what? A soul. But right now we are not in our intrinsic perfections. Why? World is there from the very beginning. It is a beginningless, and we have been there from the very beginning in a beginningless manner. And as a beginningless being, we have remained ignorant from the very beginning. Out of ignorance, we have some emotions, some desires. If you remember, they are what? Krodh, Lobh, Man, and Maya. So we have Krodh, Lobh, Man, Maya due to our ignorance. And when we are ignorant, we perform actions. So we earn certain merits, certain demerits, which is known as theory of karma. In one line, as you sow, so shall you reap. Okay? So what has happened? अब धीरे-धीरे चीजें मैं ज़्यादा डिटेल में करूँगा. Step wise चलते हैं. So we are like a soul. Imagine this is the soul, and this soul has what? Ananta Chatushtay. It has its own intrinsic perfection. However, due to ignorance, it comes under these emotions. They are like passions. Okay? And we perform action, we earn merit and demerit. In accordance with our merit demerit, we get something like Pudgal attracted to the soul. So since Pudgal is coming to us in accordance with the actions we have performed, Pudgal can also be called Karma Pudgal. In a way, our karma is material. This is unique about Jaina. तो क्यों कर्मा material है? Because the kind of dispositions we have, the kind of actions at the level of a thought, word, and deed we have or perform, they make us worthy to get certain elements like material particles. So what happens to this soul now? Pudgal will start to flow towards it. And imagine like these tube. They have so much luminosity. Light rays are emanating. If I take a thick blanket, put the blanket on the tube, what will happen? All the light will be undermined, suppressed. So what is coming out of it? Anant Chatushtay. Karmic particle, Pudgal would go and cover them. And this is how we end up as a being now. So we now have a body. And this body is made up of what? Pudgal. Soul, let's say it is there. And this soul is now पूरी तरह से penetrated. ऐसे दिखाने में सही नहीं है. Soul is everywhere. Like light is in every part of the room. So soul is everywhere. Okay. So soul, jiva, and karmic particles are so intimately interpenetrated that the intrinsic perfection Anant Chatushtay has been covered, and body has imposed limitation to the perfection of soul. ठीक है. तो अभी we are who? We are like a intimate blend of matter and spirit. The way milk and water, अगर कोई पानी मिलाए दूध में तो आप उसको अलग नहीं कर सकते. Red hot iron ball. So iron is generally cold and fire is formless in a way. You put that iron ball into fire and it has become a red hot iron ball now. तो इस हिसाब से हम और आप अभी इस दुनिया में जो है वो कौन है? जीव हैं. But जीव is given this body. Body is made up of what? Pudgal. How long will we live is also going to be determined by our past karma. So karma we perform, and karma can be of a different category. Like आयुषक कर्म, कितने दिन जिएंगे वो इस पे डिपेंड करेगा कैसे कर्म किए थे. गोत्र कर्म, why are we human is also dependent on our past karma. Okay, and after we die, who will die? This karmic particles will be taken away, and in accordance with the karma that we are now performing, we may get another birth. Soul is not going out of existence, is coming into existence. Soul is getting different body. So imagine that now while I'm walking, I am actually killing many microorganisms. So there are two possibilities. Either they had killed me in previous life, or I will be killed by these microorganisms in my next life. तो हो सकता है अगली लाइफ में अगर कर्म अच्छे नहीं हैं तो माइक्रोऑर्गेनिज्म के रूप में ही लाइफ मिले. So this is as say real जीव as we are. Everything in this world, what you can see, what you cannot see, are the same जीव. It is just a matter of chance. Who is given chance? उतना नहीं है क्योंकि कर्म इनके हिसाब से is making one worthy. So we all are reaping the fruits of our own action. But to think that plant, animals, dust particles are lesser being is a wrong understanding. इस दुनिया में दो ही चीजें हैं. सब या तो अजीब हैं या जीव हैं, और हर चीज में कण कण में क्या है? जीव, और उसके साथ है एक बॉडी जो कि पुद्गल से बना हुआ है. तो यहाँ तक की कहानी आपको समझ में आई है. तो अब we are right now a being, and all those Anant Chatushtay has been covered by karma. So if we have darshan, so then some kind of avaran. Avaran is like cover. Who is giving this avaran? कर्म, पुद्गल. तो सम आवरण यानी एक्शंस जो हम करते हैं उससे क्या हो जाता है? दर्शन पे हो जाता है आवरण. तो दर्शन, आवरण, दर्शनावर्णीय एक साथ बोलेंगे तो क्या हो जाएगा? आ है वहां भी. तो दर्शना वर्णीय कर्म. तो आर परफेक्शन विच इज लाइक अनंत दर्शन इज कवर्ड बाय ए पर्टिकुलर काइंड ऑफ एक्शन और पुद्गल. पुद्गल का नाम भी क्या है? कर्म पुद्गल, कर्म पार्टिकल. तो जो दर्शन को कवर कर दे उसका क्या नाम है? दर्शना वर्णीय कर्म. जो ज्ञान को कवर कर दे वो क्या हो जाएगा? ज्ञाना वर्णीय कर्म. जो सुख को कवर कर दे वो या तो मोहनीय या वेदनीय कर्म. मोहनीय बोल सकते हैं या दोनों ही बोल सकते हैं. वेदना तो वेदनीय. तो मोहनीय कर्म या वेदनीय कर्म. एंड दिस इज लाइक अंतराय. जो वीर्य को कवर करे उसका नाम है अंतराय कर्म. ओके, ये हम लोग अभी सीखेंगे. शुभम बस सुनते रहिए थोड़ा सा. लेट्स हैव ए ब्रीफ ओवरव्यू ऑफ मेटाफिजिक्स एंड द रिमेनिंग स्टोरी विल कंटिन्यू इन द एथिक्स एज वेल. ठीक है. मोहनीय वेदनीय कवर अनंत सुख. ठीक है. तो लेकिन एक चीज पहले समझ लीजिए आप सब लोग, एंड शुभम आप भी. We are understanding their substance. And what is substance? Substance is not something that is created. From substance, everything is created. तो कुछ चीजें जब मैंने लिस्ट बनाई है, जीव on the one hand, ajiva on the other. 5 components are there in ajiva. तो 5 components अजीव के और जीव के are not created. ठीक है. अब वर्ल्ड इज देयर फ्रॉम द वेरी बिगिनिंग, जब ये बताऊंगा तो क्लियर हो जाएगा. एंड वी ऑल हैव बीन परफॉर्मिंग एक्शंस इन ए बिगिनिंगलेस मैनर. कोई शुरुआत नहीं की है, ये बिगिनिंगलेस है. तो सिंस अर्लीस्ट टाइम्स वी हैव बीन गेटिंग बॉडी. ओके, दैट इज जीवा इज गिवन पुद्गल इन प्रोपोर्शन इन अकॉर्डेंस विद द एक्शंस. हेंस पुद्गल इज आल्सो कॉल्ड कार्मिक पदार्थ या कर्म पुद्गल. ओके, एंड व्हाट हैपेंस, द इंट्रिंसिक परफेक्शंस हैव बीन कवर्ड. तो जिस तरह के हम लोग कर्म करते हैं उसी हिसाब से वो कवर हो रहा है. तो दर्शनावर्णीय, ज्ञानावर्णीय, मोहनीय, वेदनीय, अंतराय ने हमारी परफेक्शन को कर दिया है कवर. ओके, तो वी विल अंडरस्टैंड इन एथिक्स अ पार्ट ऑफ द डिस्कशन हाउ इट happens and how we can disentangle. लेकिन अभी इतना सीख लीजिए. Who are we? Right now, the embodied empirical being is in complete blending with who we are not. Okay, and what is the purpose of life? Purpose of life is to discover your true being, and that true being is like removal of all particles. Particles, karmic pudigal, and you realize what? Anant Chatushtay. It is Anant as in infinite, and if you have infinite perfections, you are omniscient. That is like your objective. क्या है objective life का? कि आपको पूरी तरह से अपने intrinsic power को realize करना है. That is akin to be completely an omniscient person, and that knowledge is like केवल ज्ञान. एक तरह से आप इसको केवल को ऐसे भी समझ सकते हैं that you remain केवल you, only you. Everything which is not you, which is कर्म पुद्गल, you dissociate yourself from that. तो केवल ज्ञान is like omniscient. तो life का aim क्या है? Self perfection. So this stage now where we are is a state of bondage. What is the root cause of this bondage? Ignorance. Okay, and when we acquire right knowledge, we remove all the karmic particle and we attain our intrinsic fourfold perfection. अनंत चतुष्टय. ठीक है, that will be called liberation. Technically कहीं पे मोक्ष हो सकता है, तो इसको आप कैवल्य भी लिख सकते हैं. ठीक है, तो how it happens will come shortly. Now let's know जीव in the world where we are now. तो जितने तरफ आप नजर दौड़ाएं, चारों तरफ whatever you see is actually जीव. So hence, we can again classify jeev in this world at this point of time into two groups. Those who are not able to move, immobile. और बाकी जितने लोगों के पास मोबाइल है वो तो है ही मोबाइल में, लेकिन और भी बहुत सारे जीव हैं जो है मोबाइल. तो जो इमोबाइल हैं, they are like situated, stationary. So stationary can be called स्थावर, and this is moving, mobile. This is thrust. So some jeev now are in a stationary stage and others are in a moving state. So one who will be in a stationary state is like a jeev with one sense organ. You remember every jeev is given karmic particle now. It has a body. So some jeev right now are such that they have only one sense organ. And it is like the atomic particles, dust particle, or it is like atomic particle of air, water, fire and earth. In सबके atom में जीव है. What you cannot even see, इसलिए मैंने कहा कि we are walking and we could be disintegrating or eliminating empirical one sense organ jeev. Then we can have jivas with two sense organs like some worms. Some of them have three sense organs like an ant. Some of them may have a four sense organ like some kind of a wasp. Then higher animals, including dog, gorilla, chimpanzee, they can have five sense organs and we have six. As humans, we are having six sense organs, so five external and one internal. Mind is what? Internal. तो बाह्य, इंद्रिय and अनिंद्रिय भी बोल सकते हैं या मनस बोल सकते हैं mind को. Okay, तो इतने तरह के जीव हैं अभी चारों तरफ. Okay, and you remember any जीव can get the life of any other state in accordance with one's life. It is not that we as human are in any way superior to dust particle or stone or vegetable भी यहीं पे आएंगे. तो vegetation और dust particle और human हर किसी का level एक है, and this is how Jainas ethics can help you think about environmentalism also. It can help you uphold a way of life which is quite organic. Okay, तो अब ये है brief account जीव का. We are first understanding their metaphysics. अब आते हैं अजीव में. जी, एटम जो है अभी जिस स्टेज में आप एटम समझ रहे हैं वो पुद्गल का बना हुआ है. So there can be something like पुद्गल and that पुद्गल is associated with जीव. That is how you see something as again an entity like air. यानी जो पुद्गल है वो qualityless है. When many those पुद्गल come together, they acquire quality. एक चीज अगर आपको याद हो, Leucippus and Democritus were atomists. Atoms are qualitatively alike, quantitatively different. यानी whatever appears like air, water, fire, earth, they are all in the case of say their ultimate form atom. In the case of न्याय वैशेषिक, atoms will have qualitative distinction also. तो जो पुद्गल है वो matter का particle है, और जब वो particle एक साथ आता है तो it may give rise to certain quality whereby it is like air and whereby it would be water, fire, earth also. ठीक. Overall, they remain imperceptible, but when they form gross, then those gross elements would be perceptible. ठीक है? हाँ, जैसे अभी इस realm में जो पत्थर है, जो plant है, वो भी जीव है. उसका character है stationary जीव. It may have only one sense organ. बट व्हेन यू थिंक अबाउट सम वर्म, ऐसे ऐसे चलता है, उसमें 2 है, एंट में 3 हो सकता है, किसी और वैस्प में, किसी और इस तरह के फतिंगे में 4 हो सकता है, एनिमल्स में 5 है, एंड ह्यूमंस में 6 है।
So how can one say that plants only have one substance?
That is Tirthankaras.
Some plants are also carnivorous.
So that is how they have understood. So they may be brought under, some of them may come under maybe intermediary stage. Okay. Okay. So now Jiva is something that is all around us. अब आते हैं जी.
Some animals are always stationary.
Like
जो wood पे आ जाता है.
पैरासाइट्स वगैरह टाइप, तो उसको भी इंसेक्ट्स बोल सकते हैं, बट दे मे, यू नो, पैरासाइट है तो वो थोड़े बहुत चलते होंगे, दे मे प्रेफर टू लिव इन स्टक. ओके, सो द पॉइंट इज दैट व्हेन यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस वर्ल्ड, एवरी एंटिटी दैट इज देयर इज ए जीव, एंड दैट जीव जैसे कि उसका मूवमेंट हो इज इन सम वे देयर, एंड इट इज ओनली इन वन साइकिल दैट इट इज एट ए पर्टिकुलर लेयर. आखिर अब कंट्रोल कीजिए. तो अच्छा, तो धीरे धीरे दैट पैरासाइट कैन आल्सो गो टू अनदर लेवल. ओके, तो नाउ यू नो briefly about a jeev and we'll come back to this in ethics part. Let's know the remaining ones. Kal is like time, okay, and they have again given a very evolved understanding of time. So they think, when you think about Kal as in time, something is like universal, eternal. और उसको बोल सकते हैं पारमार्थिक. So paramārthik is like eternal, universal aspect of time. And then we have something like Vyavaharik Kal. We have created categories. We have created divisions. But actually time is indivisible. It is partless according to Jaina. But when we divide it, like 2 hours, 30 minutes, 1 second or 60 seconds, all of these are how you measure time. Okay, that does not mean that time itself is like that. We have Henry Bergson, a very renowned philosopher again. He also talks about time in the same way. Some aspect which could be measurable as empirical science may try to do, but there can be aspect of time which is just like lived experience, and it is beyond all kind of measure, it is beyond all kind of division. So this time that where now we are is like empirical. Akash, space is again of 2 kind. Something where this world is there is like world space, and it is like Lokakash. What is Lokakash? Ye lok. It is like world space. In this world space, everything is there. We are located in this world. There is a space which is beyond world space, लोकाकाश. फिर से संस्कृत में आसान होता है, अगर आप जोड़ दें क्या तो क्या बन जाएगा? अलोकाकाश. So this is a space beyond this empirical world. Okay. Now, लोकाकाश has some kind of summit, उसका highest point, and that is called सिद्धशील. So Siddhashil is a special abode, or again a space where all the liberated soul would go. याद है ना, soul जीव. The जीव I had enlisted as one sense organ with more sense organs. All of those are who? Jeev who are in bandhan. They are in bondage, bandha state. And there are some who are liberated. They have attained what knowledge? They are mukta. They have attained keval jnana, omniscience. They have realized ananta chatushtay. तो कहाँ रहते हैं? सिद्धशील पे. यानी from there they can see reality in all its form. To take that story as analogy, they can know elephant in all its form. But while we're in this world, we only see it either as a pillar or as a snake and so on and so forth. ठीक है? तो आपको आकाश भी पता चल गया. What is the dharma? You remember this is a medium of motion. जी. हाँ. हाँ, सम्मित. अलोकाकाश उसके बियॉन्ड है, यानी जहां पे वर्ल्ड स्पेस खत्म, उसके बाद आज के हिसाब से देखें तो वो एक्सटर्नल स्पेस हो गया, आउटर स्पेस हो गया. नहीं, उसमें नहीं जाता. जो एम्पिरिकल वर्ल्ड स्पेस तक ही हमारा एक तरह से समझिए वो दुनिया, यूनिवर्स है, वो बाहर है, वो भी है. इट इज बियॉन्ड आवर रीच. तो हेंस वी आर कन्फाइंड टू मैक्सिमम जो हम लोग जा सकते हैं वो इसके समिट तक. समिट इज बोलते हैं पहाड़ की चोटी तक. तो हम लोग हाईएस्ट लेवल तक जाएंगे, उसके ऊपर क्या है? अलोकाकाश. वहां जाने के बाद सिद्धशील एक तरह से ऐसा है that you may now know everything that is knowable, and even if it is beyond you can know. You will have no limitation then, absolute knowledge. नहीं, लोकाकाश is this world. लोकाकाश का हाईएस्ट realm is like heaven एक तरह से, उसका नाम है सिद्धशील. ओके, समझिए जैसे हर शहर का एक सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट जो कॉलोनी है जहां सारे एमिनेंट लोग रहते हैं, वीआईपी कॉलोनी, ऐसे ही है सिद्धशील. तो नाउ धर्म इज लाइक मीडियम ऑफ मोशन, अधर्म इज व्हाट? मीडियम ऑफ रेस्ट. तो रिमेंबर दिस इज लाइक लोकाकाश. This Lokakash is filled with dharma and adharma. लेकिन ये वो धर्म अधर्म नहीं है. Word can be misleading. यानी dharma adharma themselves are like medium. They don't initiate. They are passive, but they enable us to move or to take rest. For example, water acts like dharma to fish. Fish can swim only in water. अगर fish को पानी से बाहर निकाल दें तो क्या हो जाएगा? अधर्म उसके लिए. And when you put it in the water, it starts to swim. But that does not mean that water is making it swim. जिसको तैरना नहीं आता वो चला जाए उसमें, तो धर्म उसके लिए अधर्म हो जाएगा. And if some human can again swim, तो धर्म क्या है उसके, अब water क्या है उसके लिए? धर्म. ठीक है? ये अभी नहीं, इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में नहीं. At this point, धर्म अधर्म is only the medium of motion and rest respectively. तो अगर आप देखें तो sometime you may feel like resting, and certain things can help you initiate your motion. जैसे पढ़ते समय विंटर में रजाई पैर पे रख लें, फिर मन होगा कि सिर के नीचे तकिया ले लें, तो वो हो जाएगा अधर्म. उस देर में किताब नीचे गिरी हुई है और नींद आ जाएगी. So this is how certain things can motivate you, certain things can completely bring you to rest. Ji.
What's the literal meaning of dharma?
Dharma is from Dhri, and it has again different references. In one sense, Dhrit is like the ultimate from where everything will originate. So that is how it may become the fountainhead of everything. In the case of Buddhism, also it will be like Dharma Chakra. And hence, when we understand what is to be known, if you recall, Mimamsa would say, let's know the Dharma, Athato Dharma Jigyasa, the foundational principles, Siddhant, owing to which everything is there. In their case, also, Dharma is like a quality also. But in this context, they are giving it a special connotation, and this Dharma is now only medium of motion or medium of rest. ठीक है? अब आते हैं Pudgal. So Pudgal is like something that can come to integration, that can go into disintegration. It's like material particles. So देखा जाए, you have a jeev and you have 5 ajeev. So everything other than Pudgal is what? Immaterial. This is a material. Except time, everything is extended. And except consciousness, everything is unconscious. ठीक है? तो जो Pudgal है, it is like a material particle in the case of Jain. It can be equated with atomism also. And their atomism is more like the Greek atomism of Leucippus, Democritus. The quality-wise, they are all one. The difference is in quantity. But in Indian tradition, you remember I had told you Parmanu Karalvad, and that we'll see in Vaisheshik, or we will call them together gradually, Nyaya, Vaisheshik tradition. So there, atoms will have a qualitative distinction also. We will understand Pudgal in Buddhism, and there Pudgal will refer to both material as well as spiritual substance. ठीक है? तो अब आते हैं एथिक्स पे. आपने इनका मेटाफिजिक्स जान लिया है. काल जो है टाइम है अपने आप में ontologically it is out there, and that time is like something which is eternal. There will be no change, there will be no division either. But we, for the sake of our own understanding, we have tried to create some categories. So we create those dimensions. जैसे बोलते हैं कि ये 1 मिनट हुआ, ये 1 घंटा हुआ, तो ये जो डिवीजन है ये empirical है. तो ultimately in a way everything is there without any change. And you remember hence what they are trying to do, they are assimilating every viewpoint. तो अगर कोई बोले कि reality is being, they would say yes from this standpoint. Some may say but reality is becoming, they will say yes from this standpoint. Something is spiritual, yes. Something is material, yes. Something is both, yes. अभी जैसे हम लोग पूरी तरह से we are unified entity. We are as much spiritual as body. Okay, क्यों? क्योंकि हर कण में soul है. याद है आपको मैंने कहा था जीव is what? Extended. Time के अलावा हर चीज extended है. This is also unique about Jain. Generally, soul, spirit is what? Is unextended. But they say it is extended. So if imagine, there is a jeev, in this birth, it is an ant. Okay? And this ant is killed by an elephant. ये कहानी मैं ऐसे ही बना रहा हूँ. तो अब ये जो ant है वो अगले जन्म में बनेगी हाथी. तो जीव वही होगा. तो imagine ant was so tiny, now it is going to be like an elephant. तो जीव किसी एक कोने में होगा या कंध खंड में होगा. तो it is now extended, यानी जितना जगह जीव को मिलेगा वैसे ही फैल जाएगा. कोई भी जगह उसके लिए कम ही रहेगा. तो now it will be illuminating the entire body of elephant. अगले जन्म में फिर कोई particle dust का मिल जाए उसको, तो it will condition itself to that body. कई ऐसा हो सकता है कि जो लॉजिक हमने सीखा है वो उस कैटेगरी तक ही रखे, कुछ लॉजिक कैटेगरी के बियॉन्ड जाते हैं. तो हर लॉजिक की रेलेवेंस एक कैटेगरी में होगा. तो मे बी दिस इज नॉट एज वी से, यू नो, देयर इज समथिंग लाइक एलिगरी, देयर इज समथिंग लाइक मिथ, देयर मे बी समथिंग लाइक a metaphorical way to say things. So simile, analogy, even in elephant that is more like a myth. So sometimes when we have to understand something that is more complex, we try to understand that complex thing through something which is very simple.
It's just creating fear in the mind to follow ethics. It's just all fear attachment.
Sometimes people need fear also. For example, when you know the date of prelims, it can instill discipline. But when you know that it is 2023 and it is in 2024 May, you feel there is so much time. The ordinary human at times need some such fear. Like even as a child, imagine that we had just learned to walk, and whatever we learn new or it is too fresh, we like to explore it further. So the moment door will be open, a baby who has just started to walk may run out of the home कि देखिए बाहरी दुनिया क्या है. So parents may create some fear in their mind. There may be wow कुछ भी create कर सकते हैं. If you run out of the home, wow will come and take you away. So that fear may help us restrain our actions. So sometimes when we are ignorant, we don't know these external incentives, positive incentives, negative incentives can help us cultivate right habit. So that is how the story may create some sense of fear, but it is also instilling a sense of hope. So in some way, it is not illogical. The life we are having now is created by who? By our past actions. If still you see deprivation of a major segment of a population deprived of basic needs, it is because we could not implement land reform. We could not create institutions, infrastructure the way we should have been. We should have been more mindful in setting our priorities. We did conceive land reform, we could not implement it. We have had 5 years planning, but we could not implement it. So we become the person we want to do, or if the actions, the thought, the language, the action we perform determine our future. So you do see that if many things we would have studied during school itself, so those NCRTs would not have been in your reading list today. So जो करेंगे हम लोग वही भरेंगे. So that is how they are trying to explain continuity of life. Okay? जी.
So is it if we see someone who is poor,
Mhm.
तो opposite भी तो सोच सकते हैं कि
जैसे?
गलत किया होगा past life में, इसलिए वो poor है, उसका like we can think in a very different form like that.
So that is how we try to then, you remember Sartre, bad faith, कि मेरी गलती नहीं है, पुअर इसलिए है उन्होंने कुकर्म किया होगा, तो मैं क्या करूँ तुम्हारे लिए? It is like if we try to live in self-denial, then we come up with these narratives. That is why Marx would say religion is the opium. So he would say that narrative is as you sow, so shall you reap. So everyone who is going through some kind of suffering is a sinner. There are many diseases which are still there, but many of them have been eradicated through science now. But at some point of time, if people would develop that, they would be seen as those sinners who have been taken to task because of their sins of the past lives. So because of someone's sin, one is taking birth as a woman, as a third gender, as a so-called untouchable, as a black. But you understand that given right opportunity, so-called untouchable, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ends up as the most erudite person. Likewise, the world over, you have seen whether it is Martin Luther King Jr. or any other leader, including Nelson Mandela. Now, even in sports, you see so-called deprived sections or many black have been winning gold medals. So ability has nothing to do with your birth. It is all about opportunities. तो ये सब वही है, इंटेंट के पीछे जाइए. जैसे we're talking about Ambedkar, he has said in Constituent Assembly. अब यहाँ पे जैसे मान लीजिए you have law of karma. So if someone's intent is ignoble, one may justify what is unjustified, may defend indefensible. And if your intent is noble, then you may own it up also. जैसे वो बोलते हैं, even if we write very strong constitution as a text, but people who have the responsibility to implement it are not honest, are not sincere, they are corrupt, they will make it they will end up making a mockery of the constitution. But even if it is not strongly written, and the people who have the responsibility to implement it are men and women of integrity, probity, they will make it very strong. तो किस तरह से आप उसको interpret करते हैं, उसी से उसकी समझ या उसका implication समझ में आएगा. So this world view is also very progressive. It is challenging those so-called Brahminical, as in chauvinistic worldview, where people are superior by birth, and they are trying to say, how can you see even human being as inferior? Even plant, animal, dust particle have the same value. So when you think about deep ecology, when you think about the way now we talk about one earth, one family, one future, we have to think about sustainable development where we are living together as an organic whole or one unit. This worldview is propounded by Jain also. ठीक है? नहीं, पुद्गल तो शरीर बनाता है, ठीक है? पुद्गल जैसे मान लीजिए अभी ये सोल है. In this life, if it is given the body of ant, the Puddgal would come and it will become only like an ant. Now it does good work. The next life, some other kind of Puddgal would come and give it a bigger body इनाम के रूप में. As you sow, so shall you reap. तो पुद्गल आता है, जाता है, गलता है और फिर से एक साथ आता है. So it is like something which is liable to integrate, liable to disintegrate. इसीलिए इसको बोलते हैं पुद्गल. It is given in proportion to the action. इसीलिए इसको कार्मिक पदार्थ भी बोलते हैं. ठीक है?
This way of karma is in many
religion and also in all philosophy except Charvak. So when we think about Indian philosophy, except Charvak, theory of karma is in every tradition. But as again said, past, present, and future is what? It is also contextual. You can understand it with reference to one single day. Like now, we are in the present. When we started this class, around 5:30 p.m. has become past, and future will be 8:30. Morning, say afternoon तक मान लीजिए था past. अभी है present, और future is going to be the night. So in some cases, morning was also determined with the previous night you have had. If someone had not slept well, one would have ruined one's morning also. Similarly, if since morning you are using your day well, so your afternoon will be more productive. If someone has understood it properly, they are saying that past, present, and future is not about past life or future life in that sense. You can always say, I believe I will be reborn the day I become a civil servant. तो वो आपका rebirth हो सकता है. तो birth, rebirth, ये सब चीजें context में फिर से आप समझ सकते हैं, metaphorically भी समझ सकते हैं. ठीक है? नहीं, पुद्गल सिर्फ पुद्गल है. वो एंट या एलिफेंट जो बनता है, इट इज ऑलवेज विद रेफरेंस टू द जीव. ओके, तो जीव इज गिवन एन एम्पिरिकल एग्जिस्टेंस आइदर एज एलिफेंट और एज एन एंट. क्यों? क्योंकि जीव अपने आप में कॉन्शियस है एंड पुद्गल इज अनकॉन्शियस. तो नाउ वॉट एवर इज अवेयर ऑफ वन सेल्फ इज लाइक जीव. तो एंट पुद्गल नहीं है, जीव है. इट इज द एम्पिरिकल आइडेंटिटी. ठीक है? अब आते हैं एथिक्स पे. ओके, सो दिस इज इन कंटिन्यूटी विद व्हाट यू हैव ऑलरेडी अंडरस्टूड. सो वी आर जीव, वी हैव अनंत चतुष्टय. World is beyond creation, beyond destruction, and in a beginningless manner, Jeev has been performing actions because of one's ignorance. And that ignorance thus is like the root cause of bondage. Root cause of bondage is what? Ignorance. If you remember, due to ignorance, we develop certain passions. They are like Krodh, Lobh, Man, Maya. They are passions. They are cravings, desire, wrong dispositions. They are sticky substances, kashaya. In a way, for example, some of you would have done some experiments, say on iron nail, you create this spiral and then you run, connect it with a battery, it becomes a magnet. Yeah, you would have seen a carpenter work, will put some such glue, Fevicol, and then certain things will be pasted. Fevicol के ad भी बहुत अच्छे आते थे कि कोई चल रहा है, उसका जो shadow है वही चिपक गया Fevicol से. तो अब जीव has anand chatushtay. The moment it is from the very beginning in a state of ignorance, it comes under these four kashaya sticky substances. Now it has started to attract Puddgal, and Puddgal is going to be coming. This flow of Puddgal, karmic Puddgal, will be due to what? It's this magnetic power. It has become sticky now. So this flow is like influx. Okay, एक तरह से इसका आना शुरू हुआ है, तो it can be called आश्रव. So there is ashrav. What is ashrav? Influx of Pudgal towards Jeev. Now, this Jeev has certain emotions, certain desires, certain passions. In some way, the bondage, the action is not always in the manifested form. Thought is also action. जैसे अगर यानी दिमाग पॉइजन हो गया तो हम लोग करप्ट हो गए. कोई गलत बात सोच ली तो that is also like an immoral conduct. So action is always at the level of a thought, word, and deed. So there is something like ideal bondage, bhav bandh. What is bhav bandh? Ideal bondage yani the moment we have these bad dispositions because of the ignorance, we have come under the state of bondage, and it is ideal bondage. So now it is flowing, and then what it will do? Imagine that this soul is given a human body. So पूरी तरह से soul and body will be interpenetrating each other, and hence we have become embodied. So जब ये पुद्गल पूरी तरह से penetrate कर गया, there is interpenetration. So this bhav has become now Dravya bandh, material bondage. So bondage can be ideal, bondage could be material. Bondage is due to the ignorance. Due to ignorance, we have bad dispositions. It is like growth, anger, love, greed, man, inflated sense of ego, pride, arrogance, and delusion, maya. So ab Jeev has come under complete material bondage. It will keep on performing action. It will reap the fruits of its action, keep coming. So as long as there is ignorance, we perform action, we reap the fruits, and in accordance with our karmas, we will be given gotra. तो कुछ कर्मा हैं जो गोत्र तय करते हैं. Even as a human, you can understand. We say some people may be born with a silver spoon. तो गोत्र generalize करके अगर यहाँ समझे, if someone is born on pavements of a city, तो वो भी एक गोत्र है. Someone is taking birth in 5-star hospital, तो वो भी गोत्र है. कोई developed country में पैदा हो रहा है, कोई underdeveloped में भी बीमारू स्टेट में पैदा हो रहा है, ये सब है गोत्र. Then age, how long one is going to live, is also on the basis of one's karma. Okay, so now all the perfections have been eclipsed. को मालूम ही है ज्ञानवर्णीय, दर्शनावर्णीय, मोहनीय, वेदनीय, अंतराय कर्म. तो one is in a state of bondage now. Now how can one attain liberation, freedom? If the root cause is ignorance, what can eliminate ignorance? Knowledge. How can we acquire knowledge? The only credible source could be the teachings of Tirthankar. For the Jaina, no other individual or other texts are authoritative or reliable. You remember, it is a heterodox tradition. So they reject Vedic scriptures and they rely on the teachings of their own Tirthankaras. And one of the most important one is Vardhaman Mahavir. Okay, so they say you have to follow the teachings of Tirthankar. And the teachings, if they are before you as the scriptures, they are testimonial, so you have to have right faith in the teachings. यानी सबसे पहले आपको किसी ना किसी तरह का भरोसा या faith करना होगा. So right can also be called samyak. And faith can be again darshan. So samyak darshan. Now, when you have a faith, faith को आप ऐसे भी समझ सकते हैं. It should not be like a blind faith. It should be with some sense of reason, rationality, your inner scrutiny. Consider that a book is with you. You glance through it and it may show you some promise. You read a few pages, and whatever little you read, it has come true to your expectation. Imagine that there was something that was bothering you about a particular issue, a particular question you were not able to answer. And the moment you read that chapter in that book, it may restore or reinforce your faith in the book. You further go to a few more chapters, and again you feel that it is giving you that sense of clarity that you were seeking. So faith, knowledge, all of them are supplementary to each other. And faith cannot be completely blind. Faith के साथ knowledge का relation है. तो right faith and right knowledge are in some way mutually supplementary to each other. अगर वो सम्यक दर्शन है तो ये क्या हो जाएगा? सम्यक ज्ञान. You can avoid curl on n in exam. Generally लिखते समय a भी avoid कर दीजिएगा जब टाइम नहीं रहेगा. जैसे ही आपने ज्ञान ऐसे लिखा, इसका मतलब है you are familiar with diacritical marks. But avoid writing like this. Okay. So now सम्यक दर्शन and सम्यक ज्ञान. Knowledge is not only theoretical. It should be transformative. It should be translated into your action. So hence, right faith, right knowledge, right conduct or action. तो उसके लिए हो जाएगा सम्यक दर्शन, सम्यक ज्ञान, सम्यक चरित्र. Okay. तो ये है three jewels, three रत्न. यानी एक्चुअल वेल्थ क्या है? पर्ल जो है यही है त्रिरत्ना. So Tirthankaras have given us these teachings, and these teachings can be like the pearl, they can be like the jewels, the gold. Triratna. So Triratna is constituted of Samyak Darshan, Samyak Jnana, Samyak Charitra. Now, when we think about Samyak Charitra, one of the way to understand it is Panch Vrat. As you know, Satya, Ahimsa, Steya, Parigraha, Brahmacharya. Now, this is not only in Jaina, we will see it in Buddhism. And then Panch Sheel would be the term. We will come to yoga, and in yoga of Patanjali, Ashtanga yoga. First yoga is what? Yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharna, dhyan, samadhi. तो पहला योग क्या होगा? Yam. तो यम इज नथिंग बट अहिंसा, सत्य, अस्तेय, परिग्रह, ब्रह्मचर्य। बस इनको या तो आप डूज डोंट्स दोनों तरीके से बोले, और यू कैन ओनली से इट एज निषेध, प्रोहिबिशंस। लाइक व्हाट इज अहिंसा? यू ऑट नॉट टू बी वायलेंट। ओके, चिंता मत कीजिए, अभी धीरे धीरे लिखिएगा सारी चीजें, अभी उधर जाएंगे, बट आई शुड कीप यू अपडेटेड और कीप यू इन्फॉर्म कि दिस इज हाउ थिंग्स आर गोइंग टू बी। उधर तो जाना है बाद में। तो अब पंचव्रत इज वन ऑफ द वे टू थिंक अबाउट सम्यक चरित्र। व्हाटएवर नॉलेज यू acquired, it should be translated into your action at the level of a thought, word and deed. So now in different context, different तीर्थंकरास may put it in different ways. तो कोई इसको समिति भी बोल सकते हैं। तो समिति या गुप्ति, समिति is like the way you should walk, the way you should speak, you should sleep, all of that. For example, in villages you would see that through some field there are like those empty barren lane. People are walking in a particular way, so hence grass would not come there. Grasses will be on both the sides. That is, if we are walking, then what is happening due to our movement? Many species, in this case grass, are not able to flourish or come into existence. तो अगर हम लोग रोज रास्ता बदल बदल के चले, तो we are maximizing the destruction. You would see in some cases, some such sages or Jaina rishi, they may put some cover on their face, their mouth. While speaking, like now I'm holding my hand before my mouth, I can feel the force with which words are coming out. With this also, we are destroying many species or many jivas, empirical jivas, to try to minimize it. The right way of dealing with your daily chore is like samiti. Associate yourself with right conduct. Sometimes gupti is like restraint, a life where you have to be in control of your thoughts, your language, your physical act. Then there can be many dharmas, 10 kinds of dharmas like truthfulness, cleanliness. As you see, commandment in many religions are also like on the same line, 10 commandments. So overall, they agree, most of the Tirthankaras would agree that Panchvrat is able to take care of every possible conduct that one should be performing. So Panchvrat can again be contextually performed. ऐसे तो पहले लिस्ट बना लें, you already know. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Aparigraha, and Brahmacharya. Okay? So sometimes we have to perform it in a rigorous manner. And then when you perform something in very strong way, it is like, इनको एक तरह से आप vows बोल सकते हैं कि आपने क्या किया है, शपथ लिया है. You have made a promise to yourself. Okay? In some cases it can become Mahavrat, great vows. You have to follow it rigorously. And in some cases it can be small vows, yani Anuvrat. For example, when your prelims would near, it is likely that easily, in a very concentrated manner, you can study for 16 hours, 17 hours, 18 hours. But if you start doing that from the very beginning, it may not help you sustain. So this is how there can be a degree. A player may come initially maybe 40 ball, 4 runs, and then it may be other way around, 4 ball, 24 runs. So this is how Mahabrat and Anubrat is about how and where you have to take your actions to rigorous level and when it can be in moderation. Okay. So what is ahimsa? Simply put, abstinence. अपने आप को आपको रोक के रखना है. Refrain from injury. Abstinence from all kinds of injury is ahimsa. The moment you realize true implication of ahimsa, you say, actually all of these are the corollaries. Ahimsa अगर आपको follow करना है, तो you have no option but to be truthful. You have no option but to not steal. Do not over accumulate your resources, and you have to refine your aspirations for bodily pleasure as well. So ahimsa is like either non-injury या abstinence from all harm, all क्षति, नुकसान, injury. किसी भी तरह का ना physical, ना psychological, ना mental hurt किसी को करना है. Generally उल्टा होता है, कुछ लोग intent ही बना के यार hurt तो करना है body language से भी. तो ahimsa is that sense of what? Very proactively you try not to injure anyone. It is not only about refraining from harming. Proactively it is about loving. So do not only refrain from harming other. In fact, you go all the way to create a sense of love, a sense of bonhomie, camaraderie, some sense of say oneness with everything. Okay, because after all, and then it also implies what? Human-centric model of development, patriarchal structure, or androcentric, male-centric. Almost all such a sense of I, me, myself will be taken care of. So when you are following the path of ahimsa, it is like you have humility, you are inquisitive, you are reflective, you are introspecting, and that is aching to find the truth. You don't get angry. It is like being in control. Krodh, lobh, man, maya jo tha, you try to keep them at bay. You are not getting impacted by that, and hence you are able to find the truth. Abstinence from falsehood. So generally, whatever things we say which is false, root is in what? Krodh, lobh, man, maya. Out of anger, out of greed, out of some sense of say vested self-interest, we lie. So now ahimsa is helping us understand that every time you speak what is false, you are harming, injuring others. So hence it becomes a corollary of that, and abstinence from falsehood is like being truthful. Further, sometimes we may speak truth, but just because apparently we are stating fact, it may not be seen as being truthful. There has to be an art of speaking truth, and that is like sunritam. जो सत्य बोलना है उसका भी एक कला है. Imagine that a friend in one's weak moment has shared something with you, has confided in you, and then someone has done what? One has completely undermined one's privacy, has put everything in public domain. या मान लीजिए दोनों फ्लैटमेट हैं, घर पे उनको शेयर किया, क्लास में आकर अरे मालूम है कल ये क्या बोल रहा था, तो बोलेगा व्हाट आर यू सेइंग, मैं क्या झूठ बोल रहा हूँ, देखो मैंने रिकॉर्ड भी किया है. So one is speaking truth, but it is not speaking truth. Your tone, tenor, your manner should also be such that you know in a context. So likewise, there can be many questions. Let's say that a family is under attack during some communal rights. You give that family shelter in your home. And as you had feared miscreants at your doorstep, they want to ask if you have given shelter to that family. And you say, no, I wasn't even aware if there was anyone of that religion in our locality. I was preparing for my prelims. And you could convince them. And when they go, you take a sigh of relief. Your younger sibling accuses you, "Jhoothe, you have been teaching me to speak the truth. Aaj kahan gaya aapka wo Harishchandra wali shapat." So if you understand again with reference to these, of course it is not stated so explicitly, but you have to understand it again with some precision. You should know then, so what is the truth? Truth is not about stating fact. Truth is that thought, that language, that conduct whereby no one is injured, nor you let others cause injury. And this is how you know that actually action is not merely at the level of a physical act or even at the level of a speech act, it is equally at the level of a thought. So man, vach, karma, तीनों ही level पे action है. So it is like a triveni. So in this case now, this act can be seen as an act of truthful statement. But similarly, if now you are standing in a context like a legal context, you are under oath. So now truth is to state a fact because you have taken shapath now. All that you will state will be fact. But in many other cases, the truth goes beyond fact also. Truth is like end ideal. The truths of our country is not the existing social fact, economic fact or legal fact. Our truths are equality, liberty, fraternity, secularism. Our truth is a republic. And what is existing is not the ultimate truth. So this is how again you understand Satya. If we have true understanding of ahimsa, we will never try to have a sense of ownership over something that does not belong to us. So what we don't own, what is not our, we will try not to impose ownership. And that is like asteya. So you should have complete abstinence from stealing. He'll say, if there is a question like, is lying always wrong? Is stealing always wrong? You would say yes. And this is how you say all the classical traditions of East as well as West have stated the same thing. Whether it is Panchbrat, Panchashil or Yamya, Purusharth mein Dharma. All of them suggest non-stealing is virtue, yani stealing is a vice and lying is vicious. However, we should not be too naive and don't take it for granted what it is to lie and what it is to steal. We shall try to understand it in a context. So abhi jo example diya, aapne ye kya bataya? Apparently it may seem like an act of lying, but this act is very much truthful act. Similarly, if a person cannot afford a drug, a medicine, and once a family member is about to die in the absence of that medicine, he could not manage any money. And if he takes away that medicine from the shop, will it be seen as an act of stealing? Apparently, yes. But if you again understand it holistically, you may not be comfortable calling it stealing. Because what is stealing? Stealing manifests anger, greed, love, man, maya, hinsa. In this case, it was not out of any greed, anger. It had nothing, no intent to harm the shopkeeper, the chemist. Intent was to rescue human life, save humanity. It was a manifestation of love, compassion. Moreover, it was not out of a choice, but out of coercion. One was not free in this situation. One could not have acted otherwise because that could have resulted into the loss of life. Most importantly, who has the ethical ownership over the medicine? Just because we have not been able to create India as a republic as we have envisaged in the Constituent Assembly, it does not mean that ordinary people, we the people, have lost ownership over basic primary goods. State and we the people have had a contract. State has made us a promise. I'm going to be a welfare state. All your basic primary goods will be my responsibility. Hence, a state should have been able to ensure, irrespective of caste, irrespective of economic strata, everyone should have quality education, quality health care, legal justice, clean air, clean home, etc., etc. But वो नहीं है, it is a collective failure. In some way, the so-called victim, or the so-called culprit, the thief, appear like a victim who has been always on the receiving end. So there is inequality, injustice against him. So he should not be seen as the culprit. He should be seen in this case more like a victim. So now we are trying to make amend through Ayushman Bharat, through Ayush Center. That is one's right to health care is a basic need. और अगर उसके पास पैसे नहीं है कौन responsible? यानी कि unemployment है. So overall, now you realize that this is not an act of stealing. You have to understand it differently. Many things can be stolen and it may not come under the legal definition. Maybe many public servant is not using public fund judiciously, and that is stealing. Once a family member is misusing the official vehicle of the officer, it is stealing. But no action will be taken. So that is how you understand that we cannot understand stealing lines so superficially. You have to go to the core. Many companies may get a license to extract certain resources, including coal, etc. License could be to extract this much, and they may go beyond the limit. That is like stealing, and it is likely that they can manipulate everything. So this is how you understand ahimsa, and it is a corollary. Har bar thought, word, and deed. Aparigraha. Aparigraha is like a sense of fulfillment in whatever you have, rather than crave for resources, a non-opposition. Do not have a sense of, say, craving. So that sense of contentment, santosh, is something we have to seek. In a way, we should not have a sense of belongingness with the body, because body is other. You remember Jeev and Ajeev. And all our thoughts, words, and actions are directed towards fulfilling the needs of a body. So let's have a sense of non-possession. Resources के प्रति एक sense of non-ownership लाना है, and thereby what will happen? We will have no craving for material resources, not even for body. जो संथारा वाला जो प्रैक्टिस है वो तरह से इसी का एक्सटेंशन है. In some way, do not over accumulate resources, and when you are following ahimsa, you do know over accumulation can create disparity. Globally, there have been many surveys, and if you try to understand, locally, nationally, it is also true. 1% population globally own 99% resources. यानी 99% पॉपुलेशन के पास 1% है रिसोर्स का, और 1% के पास 99% है. एंड एज आई सेड, यू कैन सी दैट डिस्पैरिटी एट ऑल द लेवल. लोकली गांव में चले जाइए, डिस्ट्रिक्ट पे चले जाइए, स्टेट पे आ जाइए, नेशन पे आ जाइए, यू गो टू दिस कंट्री, दैट कंट्री, एंड देन यू सी ग्लोबली. तो हेंस वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, एज गांधी वुड से फ्रॉम ऑल ऑफ देम, देयर इज इनफ ऑन अर्थ टू मीट एवरीवन's need. But there's not a sufficient resource to meet even one individual's greed. So somewhere we have to have that sense of, say, contentment, and do not go on accumulating resources. When we think about corporate social responsibility, it is an extension of that. There are many other ways, as we were talking about medicine, there can be certain NGOs, वो जो इनका है गुरुद्वारा वालों का, जिसमें बहुत सारे मेडिसिन है जो बहुत सस्ते मिलते हैं. These things can be seen as a playground. Many schools are run by many trusts, or there are many philanthropes. Most of the Western universities are funded by such philanthropes. Even Azim Premji has done many such work in our country, and that is how you can see Aparigraha at the grassroots also. When people may donate, even say pay certain taxes as a cess, it can be seen as an act of aparigraha. During calamity, चाहे वो प्रधानमंत्री केयर फंड हो या other such relief donation हो, there are crowd funding. People may need medical help, and immediately you circulate those things, and people are donating, and life can be saved. So these are the forms of now aparigraha. So it is such that in some way all of them are interconnected. So you should not accumulate resources. So why should you have any urge for dresses? So initially there are such practices to which people take it to another level, and they say that you should not own anything, not even dress. You should have a sense of oneness with the world itself. So what they try to wear is sky, digambar, and likewise some of them could be shwetambar. So shwet पहनने का मतलब है that you should not have any sense of ego or a sense of that narcissism, vanity. All of them are futile. You just try to have a sense of oneness. Every being is equal. तो अपरिग्रह उस लेवल तक भी जा सकता है. Brahmacharya is again a reiteration of the same thing, that don't let bodily desire impulses make you completely animal or beast. So you should abstinate yourself. This abstinence is from all kinds of overindulgence in sensual pleasure. So for a saint seer, it has to be again too strong. No indulgence in bodily pleasure. That can be seen as ascetic life. And for Amjan, lay people, it can be about refinement, chastity. For example, when now we think about the empirical implication, certain things are in classical text, and how should you understand? So we can also understand it in this way, that all the bodily pleasure that we have should be fulfilled through right path, and we are beyond this body. When we seek them through refinement, expansion of interest, you no longer remain a slave of that. But at the same time, let's not live in self-denial. We cannot completely deprive ourselves of those basic prerequisites. So कुछ interpretations ऐसे strong हो सकते हैं, where it may look that sex is also a vice, but then you have to understand everything in context. If any bodily aspiration is not enabling one to remain rational, to understand the basic priorities of life, then it is wrong. But if it is helping us create a life of cooperation, coexistence, even human species are there only because of sexual interaction. So all of these has come to us naturally. So maybe, as we say, adult and consensual sex may fall in the category of brahmacharya for ordinary people. And at the same time, as you know, Anu Vrat and Mahavrat, sometime when you are again studying, a life is not complete annihilation or asceticism, self-mortification, but you should know how, where, in what proportion we should seek our bodily pleasure, and expansion of interest is an integral part of that. It is not only about a sexual fulfillment, it is about the food we eat. If we are not mindful, we may just give importance to certain food without knowing whether it is giving us any nutrient or causing all the more harm. So this is like a life of celibacy as refinement, expansion of our interest. So when we follow this Triratna, we are able to grow. And when we are growing, what will happen? We will not seek the craving as we used to have earlier. We have a life of discipline, self-control, self-restraint, and thereby our ignorance is on decline, and we are coming closer to our intrinsic nature. So eventually, when an individual has understood through Triratna that my being can remain independent of the bodily indulgence, one is no longer a slave, is not tied with Krodh, Lobh, Man, Maya. Hence, the flow of karmic pudgal has stopped. एक टाइम ऐसा आएगा कि अब और फर्दर क्रेविंग नहीं है, तो देयर इज नो स्टिकी सब्सटेंस टू रिमेन दैट मैग्नेटिक और अट्रैक्ट द फ्लो. तो ये स्टेट जो है अभी हो गया ये संवर का स्टॉपेज ऑफ कार्मिक फ्लो. Now, over a period of time, when there is no influx, further influx, soul is coming out of these karmic pudgals who were already penetrating the soul, and there is a kind of a disintegration, and eventually it will reach nirjara. जो निर्जरा का स्टेट है वो फाइनल स्टेज है लिबरेशन का, when there is complete separation of a karmic padarth from the जीव, and one has attained what? Omniscience, केवल ज्ञान. Okay, Anand Chatustay has been realized. So this is like the attainment of liberation. अब फिर से it may sound completely जैसे आपने कहा था unrelatable, illogical, but you can make it very relevant in day-to-day life also. If you have to study now also for this prelims, our mind may go everywhere and will not be able to focus on the book that you have put before you. So you have to be in so much control that such an influx of other thoughts should not come and pollute your state of mind. And then with that concentration, when you work, many weaknesses that we may have, we will be able to overcome them. And then you do realize that I thought I'm addicted to this, I'm addicted to that, but probably I can come out of those weaknesses or impulses. So overall, it is a life of self-help. It is suggesting that Tirthankaras have given you these ratna. If you put it to optimal use, you will develop self-reliance, self-belief. Prayer, all other form of religious rituals should help you cultivate that sense of self-reliance, self-belief, self-transformation. The prayer there, security guard ka statement tha, that prayer is not to please any god, but prayer is primarily for self-transformation. So Jaina is a religion without God. And we will see later in Nyaya Vaisheshik, 9 proofs for the existence of God, and those 9 arguments will be in some way the blend of cosmological, teleological, moral arguments. But before that, since we are studying Jaina, Jaina has given arguments to prove non-existence of God. And that is how Jaina is a religion without God. Tirthankaras can be seen as a Godhead. Godhead as in Tirthankaras are highly respected. But that does not mean there is a personal God, the creator. The world is beyond creation. The world is eternal. And we will see their argument why God is not needed. Okay? He has somewhere. और वो है निर्जरा. Okay?
जो है इसमें जो हम गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स देते हैं तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर सबको मिलता है वो भी
अपरिग्रह में आ सकता है. हम उसको रख सकते हैं. एक तरह से देखा जाए स्पेशली फॉर पब्लिक वेलफेयर. The taxes people pay is also used for welfare. अब जैसे बहुत सारे 2023 में there was a question on corporate integrity also. So when you think about certain aspects, think about even reservation. Rather than understand anything positive or negative, you do know that things are often introduced for some kind of a political advantage or disadvantage. But overall, we do need to realize that good of one is contained in the good of all. Anyone who is deprived of basic prerequisite is also like in a state whereby human resource is not utilized properly. And that person may someday kill someone, may even rape someone, or can cause a certain other thing whereby one may become even a terrorist, you never know. So we need to get it together. Now, in the name of corporate social responsibility, most of the funds are not utilized. In many cases, who all are in capital cities, maybe those migrants who were small farmers, their land would also have been taken away. They were ignorant, some money would have come, but they would have spent it, and now they don't have any skill. So we have to think about all over again a model of governance or even affirmative action whereby corporates can help the children of such a section get accommodated as a human resource, training, some kind of welfare scheme, planning, and thereby this is also like a kind of aparigraha. When you say one sun, one earth, one greed, it is like aparigraha. Ujjwala Yojana, all of these are like aparigraha. Ayushman Bharat, all of these can be seen as aparigraha. EWS reservation is there in public schools where in technical sense, the workers' children, if there is any locality, who will be the guard, who will be the cleaner, who will be the driver, and they may have to report to the master's house at any point of time. So they are living in the vicinity. Their children should also go to good schools, or either there is a design whereby we are looking at their children as a future driver. The driver ka beta banega driver, cleaner ki beti banegi cleaner, cook ki beti banegi cook, and that is how maybe we will continue to perpetuate this exploitation. So there is a beautiful legal intervention that every public school will give probably 33% seats to weaker section children. And as per rule, those children should sit together in the same classroom. But all or most of such provisions are violated. Without any fee, those children would come. So that is how, as long as there is a business, जैसे ही कोई चीज business बनेगा, तो profit maximization will become the main objective. So education should not become business the way it is becoming. Health should not become a business the way it has become. It should be designed in such a way that the basic needs are also taken care of, and at the same time, it should have a model of sustenance. तो अपरिग्रह एक तरह से ये कह रही है that good of one is contained in the good of all, and we all have to think about this organic interdependence. Operation Maitri वगैरह भी उसी का एक example था अगर आज के context में देखें तो. जी.
So what is the solution of the problem if a person become victim of that stealing and all these things?
जैसे एक ethics आप लोग GS के भी स्टूडेंट है, मैंने ethics में यही केसेस में देखा उसका आंसर भी लिखा है. तो we have to deal with such people with some sense of say compassion. There can be some ways to meet the harm, the injury that has been caused to chemist. But if you simply send him to prison, that is not a solution. We have to think about solving the problem rather than aggravating it. So if there is a negotiation and you understand the case is very different, some kind of say apology or maybe even few days custody and judges will be the right person. Main चीज ये है कि आपको पहले समझना है that this matter is very different and we should not consider this as the act of stealing, which many other where many other such cases could be lying in the code. When you solve the problem in the right, understand the problem in the right way, you'll be able to solve the problem. Primarily, you should be a thoughtful person. You should be able to analyze and understand what are the uniqueness, and then let's debate. Solution will not come through one person. Solution is to be sought through collective deliberation. But yes, there is a institutional role, और उस जगह पे उन अधिकारियों के conscience को जरूर ये बात notice करनी चाहिए. And that is how there can be, as you say, public servants should be conscientious. As a newspaper में देख रहा था, तो sometimes there can be a very creative way to say few things. तो फाली conscientious नरीमन. तो इस तरह से जैसे आप भी बोल सकते हो, ऑफिसर्स को इसीलिए कॉन्शियस होना चाहिए. यू कैन नॉट टेक एनीथिंग फॉर ग्रांटेड दैट यू नो व्हाट इज राइट, व्हाट इज रॉन्ग, व्हाट इज स्टीलिंग. अगर आपने वो सेंसिटिविटी दिखाई तो नाउ यू आर ऑन द राइट लाइन.
This can be absolutely agree that he should not be punishable. But what if the situation will be there in which he becomes habitual in all these things, and every time the
देखिए ये सब फिर वही है कि कौन क्या करेगा. ऐसे तो जो अभी तक कुछ नहीं किया वो भी कुछ भी कर सकता है. फैक्ट ऑफ द मैटर इज आज क्या है रिकॉर्ड पे, एंड एज ए स्टूडेंट हु इज ट्राइंग टू बी ए लीडर, as a civil servant, should have a thinking mind of one's own. And I was trying to tell you that when you start to think about issues, you have to acknowledge the problem. When you acknowledge the problem, we will be trying to find the solution. Let's not have any complacency that solution is with us. We need to think about all of this, and we can know what it is not. So it is not like that brazen act of stealing. It does not show that criminality. So how can we be so cruel? So in a way, one is punished for the first time the day one is born as a poor person, and if now we again with insensitivity send him to custody as a thief, we will be punishing him twice. So I think we need to be mindful of the uniqueness, and we have to be sensitive enough. तो अब solution क्या है ये कोर्ट में तय होगा, बाकी चीजें होंगी, लेकिन अभी आपके माइंड में ये थॉट्स आने चाहिए. आप इतने मशीन नहीं हैं, आप एक ह्यूमन के रूप में इंस्टीट्यूशंस को ज्वाइन करेंगे, ये मैसेज आना चाहिए पहले. ठीक है, तो अब वी हैव कवर्ड जैनास मेटाफिजिक्स, and you have covered ethics, and you see the interrelation, and then there is a transitional phase. We need to acquire knowledge, and eventually we go to which Gyan? Keval Gyan. Okay. So now, what is the epistemology? What are the kinds of knowledge that Jaina tradition would accept? So Jaina would tell us, यानी अभी जहाँ पे हम लोग हैं, knowledge that you have can either be paroksha, that is immediate knowledge, or knowledge can be aparoksha, immediate. तो एक type knowledge का क्या है? परोक्ष ज्ञान. And the other one is aparoksha jnana. So one of them could be mediate knowledge, and the other one is immediate knowledge. Okay. So under paroksha jnana, they further classified into two: mati jnana and shrut jnana. Okay. Mati is like perception, knowledge through perception, and it is also inference, as we generally understand. So perceptual knowledge, inferential knowledge. Shruti, knowledge on the basis of what you hear, what you heard, and on that basis you know. So basically this is like a knowledge through the testimonies of Tirthankaras. Text-based knowledge जो है वो है Shruti. In general, Pratyaksh is regarded as what? Immediate and direct. But when it comes to Jaina, it is a paroks, mediate. Why these two are mediate? Because you remember who you are. You are actually soul. You are actually Jeev. But both of them involve something like a sense organ, or it can also involve mind. So soul, with the mediation of sense organ, with the mediation of mind, external senses, internal, indriya, anindriya. Okay, so that is why they are what? Mediate. Otherwise, in all other tradition, Pratyaksh is what? Immediate. In relative sense, they may accept a perception also as direct. लेकिन ये वो direct नहीं है, क्योंकि direct क्या है? Aparoksha. So what are the aparoksha ज्ञान? They will give us three: avadhi ज्ञान, manah, paryaya, and keval. Keval ज्ञान. These three are what? Aparoksha jnana, immediate. They are immediate. Why? Because they are not coming through the mediation of sense organ or mind. They are coming to soul directly. English equivalent if we create. So avadhi is like clairvoyance, and manah priya is more like telepathic knowledge, and keval, omniscience. Okay. So we have about 7-8 minutes. तो थोड़ा सा लिख ही सकते हैं हम लोग. Clairvoyance. जैसे अवधि में you go to a sage, okay, and आज के टाइम में देखें तो जैसे अभी जो ज्ञान ले रहे हैं काव्यानि शुभम, ये है अवधि. दे आर स्पेशली टेम्पोरली सिचुएटेड डिफरेंटली. अभी टेम्पोरली लगभग साथ हैं, जो लोग बाद में देखेंगे वो टेम्पोरली भी सिचुएटेड डिफरेंटली होंगे, लेकिन वो क्लियरली देखेंगे स्पेस और टाइम की दूरी को छोड़ के. तो टेक्निकली देयर कुड हैव बीन ए सेज. यू गो एंड यू से प्लीज लेट मी नो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन दैट. मान लीजिए जैसे महाभारत में संजय, तो कल रांची में जो टेस्ट होगा वो यहाँ लोग देखेंगे बैठे बैठे. तो ये है क्लैरवॉयंस. आज देखेंगे किसी स्क्रीन पे मॉनिटर पे, वो अंदर से ही मन में देखा था अच्छा बॉलिंग मिला इंडिया को. तो ऐसे क्लैरवॉयंस. So this is like knowledge of entities, objects which are located distantly. They have a spatial temporal distance, and yet It says a saint can know them directly, immediately. These limitations are not there. हाँ देखिए, जो फिर से कैसे अटेन हुआ तभी तो आज आपके पास किसने दिया है ये सैटेलाइट बना के, जितने एडवांसमेंट हैं ये किसने निकाला है, अनंत चतुष्टय ही तो है ये। तो इसे आप उनको ये नहीं सोच सकते हैं कि क्या कहानी बना रहे हैं। जो कहानी बना है 8th 9th century is like the period of Parshvanath. Mahavir is elder to Gautam Buddha, and interestingly, the father's name of Mahavir is Siddhartha. So it is estimated, फिर से श्वेतांबर दिगंबर में अंतर है, but around 6th century BCE he has left us. और तब जो बात बोल के गए हैं कि क्लैरवॉयंस है, तो यू सी टुडे इट इज पॉसिबल, गूगल मीट वगैरह भी लोग करते हैं, वीडियो कॉल पे बात होती है, ये सब है क्लैरवॉयंस। ओके, तो दिस इज लाइक अगेन डिफरेंट। जैसे मान लीजिए अगर आपका कौन सा कनेक्शन है, नेटवर्क साफ या नेटवर्क अच्छा नहीं है, 2G 3G 5G तक लोग पहुंच गए हैं, तो सम सेंट may have that accessibility of a higher degree. किसी से आप जाके पूछे बोले नहीं रांची से पहले ही मेरा कनेक्शन छूट रहा है, तो दूसरे के पास जाओ। तो जैसे कोई नेटवर्क में गोल गोल ही घूमता रहेगा, उधर मैच खत्म भी हो गया। तो किसी की एबिलिटी कम, किसी की ज्यादा होगी। Then some it has to do with to what degree Pudugal is creating obstacle. So when one is coming out of the covering of Pudugal, one is getting that clarity of the knowledge which one has within, and that is how they are immediate, they are aparoksha.
So this is like intuition.
Intuition, yes, in this sense, not premonition. They are aparoksha का मतलब है intuitive knowledge. Okay, so intuition can also have many meaning. In many cases, premonition जैसे वो जो फिल्म है Final Destination. And one intuition is what you know directly, immediately. रामानुजन वाली फिल्म का मैंने कभी एग्जांपल दिया होगा आपको। Almost like a Mino dialogue में जो बातें हैं वो है someone who is not educated formally has learned this, and then one is solving a mathematical problem and claims it is just comes to me. In that sense, yes, it is intuitive in nature. It is immediate. Mana priya is more like as now we are sitting, and sometimes it may happen that a friend may send a text to other, और उसके मन में क्या चल रहा है वो दूसरे को पता चल गया। तो ये है चाहे फोन के थ्रू, टेक्स्ट के थ्रू, कि आप किसी और के मन की बात जान लेते हैं, या तो मन की बात आके आप सुनाइए, या आप दूसरे की मन की बात कैसे जान लेते हैं। तो उन दिनों मन पर्याय है। And what is Keval Gyan? When Anant Chatushtay has been attained, and this is like a state of complete perfection, it is like a state of self-actualization or realization. And then there will be an important part which will be Syadvad. So we have covered the important sections, and you are now in a position to relate with their epistemology. We will also write a few important arguments why they believe that the existence of God is untenable. That will be more like proofs for the non-existence of God. वो आपको पेपर 2 में भी मदद करेगी। ठीक है, तो जैना से क्लैरिटी हो गई। Okay, all right. And then these things shall help you write good essay and also use these things in your ethics paper. Paper 2, problem of say development, caste, women, responsibility, accountability, many topics are there in paper 2, social political also. Religion तो चल ही रहा है, philosophy of religion, religion without God का example है, why there should not be a God का आपको यहाँ पे example मिलेगा। Then there is a topic religion and morality cover हो रहा है, तो एक चीज पढ़िए और अनेक topic cover होगा। Okay, okay, so thank you, see you all tomorrow again at 5:30 PM. All right.
So this religion is just like a
This is more like a spiritual in nature.
So they are basically suggesting free will. There is
Free will, and it is a life of self-help, self-reliance. So you should know that there is no one who is going to rescue, but you are capable. केवल ज्ञान का मतलब है that आपके अंदर इतनी संभावनाएं हैं that you have to just look within. और जैसे आपने पूछा, तो जितनी एडवांटेज आज हम लोगों की लाइफ में है वो कहाँ से आई है? किसी साइंटिस्ट ने इसी चीजों को रेफरेंस बना के उसको रियलाइज कर दिया। There is nothing that have been given to us by any fairy in any kind of say charity. Humanity has earned it. All the suffering that we are getting, we have also earned it, and every accomplishment that we have to our credit, you should give credit to human mind only. ठीक है, चलिए फिर, thank you.
But how are they ignoring the natural nature of a human being?
They are not ignoring.
It's like how Karl Marx ignored the natural nature of human being and created a theory out of it.
So Karl Marx has not neglected. In fact, he is saying that some sections are neglecting for their vested self-interest. So he is saying matter is there as the cause, and if you are not giving right structure over the ownership, you are going to pay for it. So the way Hegel, Spinoza, Plato is saying, there is a rational principle which governs every event. In some way, especially in Spinoza, Hegel, there is a spiritual determinism. Essence precedes existence. Marx is saying there is a material determinism. And if you want to remove suffering of humanity, you have to come out of the root cause. And as long as it is owned by the capitalist, they will keep on exploiting people. And human nature, he knows very well that we are scientific. We are scientific, we will find out why I am suffering, because capitalists are exploiting us. So capitalists then conspire against workers. They hand down them a narrative, religious narrative, whereby we are told that you are a sinner, and that is why you have been reaping the fruits of your sin. Don't blame the capitalist. In some way, now Marx is saying this religious narrative is acting like some kind of opium drug, and your scientific thinking is completely affected. You are going away from yourself. You are alienated. Stop drug abuse. अफीम को यूज करना, मिसयूज करना छोड़ दीजिए, and you get back your scientific thinking. You discover the cause. Cause is the way economic resources have been structured. Change it, and your suffering is gone. So all of them are giving a roadmap in their respective ways, and we are no one to distort it. Let's try to have a fair and a generous interpretation, rather than, as I said, miss the point and take them as something like a laughable idea. So you do see today we are having direct transmission. People are going beyond space and time. Your essay says you cannot enter the same river twice. Now we have archives. आज ही के संदर्भ में देखें तो आज न्यूज़पेपर में 2 इंपॉर्टेंट लोगों की डेथ की बात है, अमीन सयानी और फालियस नरीमन। they may no longer live with us in body, but their contributions are such that they have become immortal. तो ये लोग बोल रहे हैं immortal, तो गलत कहाँ है? अमीन सयानी की आवाज immortal है और वो हमेशा archive में बसती रहेगी. Falius Nariman has groomed many lawyers. He has shown the path. His changes are there, interventions are there. People will keep on referring to those debates. He's there forever. So this is how they are indeed like a phoenix. कोई उनको मार नहीं सकता. गांधी has become immortal. भगत सिंह is immortal. तो आप immortal हो सकते हैं इसी सेंस में. ठीक है? तो चलिए धीरे-धीरे बाकी इश्यूज भी हम लोग कवर करेंगे. Alright, thank you.